Hi, my name's Vanessa Valier and I'm CEO and founder of We Are Tech Women. I'm really excited to have Jennie Woods from Funding Circle, who is the head of engineering, in my lounge today to talk about her career. We'll be touching on barriers for women. We'll be talking about 3 tips to kind of enhance your career, but ultimately we're going to get to the heart of Jennie's story. So first of all, Jennie, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really excited to be here.
It's really good to talk to you. So tell me a little bit about your background. Where did life begin? What you studied?
Yeah, sure. So I was born and raised down in Bournemouth, so a lovely part of England to grow up in. I got into computing at quite a relatively young age, I would say. So my dad was head of IT at a local senior school, so that definitely inspired me to get into computing, kind of growing up with them at home, which was relatively unusual at that point in time. It's something I was really passionate about and loved enjoying studying at school. So I did computing at GCSE and at A level, and it was something that I really wanted to continue doing, and decided to study business information technology at Bournemouth University. So my degree was kind of 20% business and 80% computing. So it was really great for me to have, I wanted the business lens on things, but also to stay reasonably technical. So I think that's held me in really good stead for my future career. My degree, I did a placement year. So I did 2 years at university, and then I did a year in industry for my placement. So I was really lucky to land fantastic placement at Estee Lauder companies. So it was a really great opportunity for me to explore different areas of technology and really figured out what I was really passionate about and what I really enjoyed. So I got exposure to kind of networking, databases, but I would say software development and programming was something that really clicked for me on my placement year and something I really enjoyed. And that was what I really wanted to pursue from a career perspective.
So what about the first job? So obviously you've done the year, and then when did the actual tech career really start? Tell me about that.
Yeah, sure. So I was lucky enough to stay on at Estee Lauder after I graduated and ended up having a career of almost 10 years there. So I did quite a few variety of different roles. So when I first joined, I was within the internal IT departments that was building small software applications for internal use. After a couple of years, I moved into the e-commerce department. So I was at the point in time that e-com was really taking off, and I had a core engineering kind of career trajectory there. So moved my way up between kind of junior, mid-level, senior and lead engineering roles at Estee Lauder. So it was a great opportunity to get lots of different roles, working in different teams and lots of different experience. And I would say that's where I first had my experience kind of managing people and leading teams. And my kind of latest role at Estee Lauder was regional tech lead for Europe, Middle East and Africa. So looking after kind of dozens of websites across many different countries in that region. So that involved both kind of technical oversight, did a lot of code reviews, and like people management and leadership of offshore teams. So yeah, I had quite a varied career at Estee Lauder, and I definitely feel like that's held me in really good stead for the future.
How did you feel? Because a lot of people, like we talked to, whether they're software engineers, and then they start to lead teams, and there's always that worry that, if I become too, away from the actual technical side of things, that I'll lose my skills, or as you move more into management. Did you ever worry about that?
Yeah, I did, and it's something that probably still plays on my mind even today. I think it's about finding the right balance, but I think also accepting that as your career progresses, your skills and experience therefore needs to diversify, and you become better at different things and learn new skills. And whilst obviously still having that technical background and needing to understand things at a high level, as you kind of progress through your career, I think you start to accept that actually you need really strong people in your team as well. And you don't have to be the technical expert or the expert in every single discipline to be successful. It's about building that team around you who have the skills and different experiences that really complement each other so that we can be successful as a team.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your job. So you're currently head of engineering at Funding Circle. Tell me about the day in the life of Jennie.
Yeah, sure. So at a high level, one thing that I really love about working at Funding Circle is I'm not the only head of engineering. So I have a few really great colleagues that I get to work with and collaborate with. So together, along with our VP of engineering, we're responsible for setting the strategic direction for engineering at Funding Circle. So our goal really is to make it a great place to work and somewhere that our engineers and engineering managers can really thrive and progress in their future career, but obviously also growing future growth for Funding Circle as well. So what that really means is that I'm head of engineering for 3 different groups at Funding Circle, and each of those groups are made up of multiple teams. So my role, I would say, is probably threefold. So people management side of things, delivery management, and then technical strategic direction for each of my groups. Work really closely with my product counterparts as well in setting product strategy for the group. So from a people management perspective, that's really about supporting the engineering managers and principal engineers who kind of report into me directly. So supporting them in their roles and their personal development, also thinking about culture more broadly for all of the engineers within the group. So making sure they've got all the tools and opportunities that they need to be successful and set them up for success in their longer term career as well. Do some delivery management, so kind of overall kind of program management of some of the initiatives that are kind of group wide, and kind of setting up kind of broader planning and delivery frameworks within the group, thinking again, we're working really closely with my product counterparts so that we've got kind of future planning horizon in place, looking at resource and capacity planning for the group, and making sure that we're kind of set up for success in the mid to long term. And then lastly, the technical strategy side of things. So understanding what our tech strategy is at Funding Circle as a whole, and then working within my groups using, obviously working really closely with principal engineers and all of the teams to make sure that we're aligning to that strategy. We know how it applies to our group and all of the things that we're delivering align to that in the future. So overall, I would say it's really about understanding what a good engineering group looks like and creating the environment for each of the teams to be successful within that.
So on the topic of, creating an environment that feels inclusive and for everyone to thrive, I mean, engineering is predominantly male dominated, right? And so is that the case with your team? Have you ever maybe yourself had any barriers that you face for being like the only woman in a full male engineering team?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of barriers, it's something that I guess probably wasn't too much on my radar earlier in my career. So I went to all-girls senior school, so gender diversity was kind of not really on my radar at the point in time that I decided to move into technology. And even at university, although there was kind of 100 odd people on my course, 5 I would say were women. There were plenty of female lecturers and things, so I could kind of see there was something there, but not something that I would say was a barrier until I went into the workplace. The common thing that I tend to find really is that people make assumptions about you based on your gender. So the fact that I'm a woman, people generally and working in technology assume that I'm not from an engineering core background and maybe don't have that kind of skill set. So they might think that I'm there as a delivery manager or a product manager or I work in HR or something else. So I kind of find that the impact that has on me is that I have to work a bit harder in certain forums where people don't know me or don't know my background to be heard, and for my opinions to kind of end thought processes to kind of rise to the top, but maybe more so than some male counterparts where it's just kind of presumed or accepted that they're working in technology, so they must come from a more technical background.
That's something that obviously a myth that we're trying to dispel around, there are some people that come from, core engineering backgrounds that have got a degree in computer science, but the world has kind of changed. And I think the digitalization of the world has changed, whereby you've got people with core business skills that are now being morphed into tech. So we're seeing kind of more and more of that. But yeah, I hear you on the assumptions of, are you here because you're part of the business, not the fact that you're actually the boss. Quick story. I once had a guy in an interview who had his whole conversation with the guy that worked for me about the job. because he thought he was the boss and not me, which was very funny towards the end. He was mortified. But it just goes to show that the assumptions that are being made. So talking about teams, I mean, obviously there's been much talk over the years around diverse teams lead to better results, they lead to better business, they lead to, increased bottom lines. How do you foster that inclusion? Because obviously you don't get diversity without the inclusion part first. How do you foster inclusion and within your team so that everyone feels that their voice is being heard and that they feel included?
Yeah, absolutely. I think first of all, it's really acceptance that people are different and educating yourselves on those differences. And then finding that way to create an environment that enables everybody to bring themselves to work and bring their ideas to the forefront. So there's some tactical things that I would do. So thinking about different kind of ideation sessions and things like that, making sure we're kind of sharing pre-reads in advance of those meetings, so giving everybody an equal opportunity to prepare. So for people who maybe would feel a bit less confident or would struggle to get their opinions across, they've got plenty of time to kind of analyze, prepare their feedback, do a dry run if they want to, and feel more confident that they're going into those sessions on a level footing to maybe those people who are a bit more comfortable discussing ideas without a huge amount of preparation. So I think that's definitely one thing. And then facilitating sessions in a way that gives everybody their equal opportunity to put their thoughts forward. So not letting certain individuals monopolize conversation and really speaking up if I spot some kind of misinterpretation of somebody's point or dismissal of somebody's ideas. I think we've all probably been in the room where we've said something and 2 minutes later somebody else has said exactly the same thing, and it's no one's ever heard of it before, and it's the best idea since sliced bread. So definitely kind of bringing that conversation back round and calling those things out and supporting those people and being able to articulate their point again, or maybe amplifying their idea and kind of building their confidence and bringing the conversation back round to them. And I think also deliberately bringing people into the conversation. If you know somebody sat there who is being a little quiet, but will have some great contributions, kind of finding a way to bring them into the conversation without obviously putting them on the spot. But building those kind of ins to the conversation to let them clear a bit of space for them to have their voices heard. I think from more of like a performance and people management perspective, I think being really clear about what good looks like and removing any kind of gender bias from that. So thinking more about outcomes rather than kind of specific behavior, like traits or behaviors that we associate with success. And accepting that people will achieve those outcomes in different ways and being open to that, not having kind of one very specific view of what good looks like. And I think the same in recruitment as well. So as I'm kind of building teams and hiring new people, I think we know that women are deterred from applying for jobs if they don't meet all of the criteria on a job description, whereas we know that men aren't. Therefore, really thinking about our job ads, focusing on purely like a small set of core needs for the role, making sure that those job ads are written in a way that's using inclusive language, and making sure that we've got diversity in our interview and hiring panels, and again being more outcome or value focused in those processes rather than looking for specific traits which may lend themselves to kind of one type of characteristic.
That's amazing, and what a great set of kind of bits of advice for everyone, hopefully the people that are listening, in terms of, making people feel included, because once that you get that kind of that culture going, it just leads to better teams and, again, as we said earlier on, better results. Just curious, have you benefited from any kind of mentors or sponsors in your career? Is there anyone you can look back and say, they really took me under their wing and I'm kind of here because of them?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much that I think we can learn from everyone, and even if I don't necessarily think of somebody as kind of a mentor, there was always some kind of leadership style that I really admired in people and then endeavoured to kind of mimic as I grew in my career as well. So there's definitely somebody that sticks out at Estee Lauder, who was I would describe as a bit of a swan. So on the surface, all very calm and relaxed, but under the surface, maybe legs going at a million miles an hour. But no matter what kind of problem you had, they were always very calm. You always knew exactly what kind of a response you were going to get. They weren't volatile in any way, and it was always extremely solution focused. So finding people around you who have those traits that I think you really admire and aspire to kind of mirror in your own leadership style, I think are really important. But definitely there's people in my current role now who maybe you don't always notice it at first, but are sponsors for you. You might not necessarily be in the room when they're sponsoring you, if you like, and finding opportunities for you. But yeah, my current line manager at Funding Circle actually is really great at this, really great at kind of being an ally in kind of certain forums for me. So if he feels that conversation is moving in a direction, or my opinions aren't being heard, kind of clearing the space for me to come to the forefront. So yeah, definitely appreciate that. And then kind of outside of work, I've done a few different mentoring programs in the past as well. So one I have done recently was a group mentoring session. So we kind of met monthly, and there was a group of around kind of 10 of us, and it was facilitated by a very experienced CTO, and having that opportunity to learn from others who are maybe going through similar stages in their career, so transition into more senior leadership positions, the ability to really kind of learn from them, talk through certain challenges that we're facing, understand how they might tackle them if they've been through something similar in the past. So that's something I've kind of been endeavouring to give back to as well, both within Funding Circle. We have some female empowerment and mentoring programs, which I'm a part of, but also being part of women in tech mentoring programs outside of work as well, and trying to pay back, I guess, on behalf of all those great mentors that I've had the pleasure of working with myself as well.
I've had the pleasure of interviewing a number of your male allies like Greg and Bruno and people like that. And it does seem a wonderful culture of being supportive at Funding Circle, which is always great to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what top 3 tips would you offer for anyone that's kind of watching? What are the 3 things that you would kind of pay forward and give to them in terms of accelerating their own careers? What would they be?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think self-reflection is probably one thing. So accepting that you will make mistakes. We all make mistakes. We're human, but kind of capturing feedback from others, self-reflection yourself, and taking those learning opportunities. So finding people around you who you really trust, who can give you that open and honest feedback, embracing it and using it in the spirit that it's meant for you to develop and to grow. So I would say being reflective and open to feedback is definitely one thing. I think I touched on it a little bit earlier, but surrounding yourself with other great people. So I personally, particularly early on in my career, maybe felt a little bit competitive or threatened by other people and different skills. And I think actually, just embrace that. So surrounding yourself by people who have different strengths to you is a really great opportunity for you to learn, get exposed to different experiences, different backgrounds, different ideas, different thoughts, different ways of doing things, and just using that as a learning opportunity. So I think if you're in a position where you are hiring, don't be afraid to hire people with different strengths to you, different experience, different skill set. So think about how you make your team successful. And that doesn't mean you have to be the expert in everything personally. It's about the strength of the team as a whole. If you're not kind of in that position, looking for mentors internally. So it might be people not directly within your team, but elsewhere within your company who can kind of help you in terms of developing your skill set. And then if not, looking externally. So as I mentioned, there's quite a few women in tech mentoring programs out there. So definitely kind of sign up to one of those and build a relationship with somebody who's able to support you and maybe has been through a similar experience to what you're going through at the moment. And then lastly, I would say kind of self-care and well-being is really important. So you can't be your best and excel in your career if you're running on empty. So finding ways to kind of prioritize your own well-being so that you can excel in your career. So for me, just like something really straightforward, just like popping out for 15 minutes at lunchtime, get some fresh air, feels like it improves my mood, sets me up better for the afternoon, and helps me perform better in my role as a result. Definitely find like that change of scenery sparks creativity, and therefore if I'm about to maybe undertake something, a more focused task, like having that creativity and break really helps me perform better as a result.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Just that change of scenery, just being able to get outside. And again, as you talked about, self-awareness, I think is really, really important. So what's next for Jennie?
Yeah, so at Funding Circle, we're really focusing on our multi-product strategy at the moment. So I've recently we've formed a platform group, so I've become head of engineering for that group. So it's really kind of doubling down on our multi-product strategy, helping to solve that challenge for Funding Circle, and ultimately helping Funding Circle help even more small businesses in the future. So for me, that's like massive motivation at work, is reaching and having an impact to all of those fantastic small businesses around the UK. So yeah, definitely really excited to be part of that multi-product strategy and evolving our platform in the future.
Fantastic. Well, Jennie, it's been awesome to talk to you. Such an extensive career, and we look forward to keeping in contact with you in the future. So any of you that are kind of watching, if you're interested in working with Funding Circle, you can visit their website. I mean, who wouldn't want to work for Jennie and her team? It sounds like they've got some really exciting projects. So thank you very much, Jennie. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for sharing those tips with us and your entire career story.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you.